What's up, guys? So here are my predictions for UFC Fight Night happening in Nashville, Tennessee this weekend. The card isn't that bad. Well, there's some really good matchups on this card. The main event is interesting. I know a lot of people are probably going to be favoring Stephen Thompson, but it is a very interesting stand-up stylistic matchup. You got two traditional martial artists going at each other like that. We have not seen a matchup like this in a very long time. And the fight that's most interesting, in my opinion, in terms of merit and importance in their respective divisions, is Jussier Formiga versus Deiveson Figueiredo. That fight is definitely one to look out for because the winner of that might fight Henry Cejudo. But we're going to start with Macy Barber versus JJ Aldrich. Now, this is going to be a pretty interesting fight. Both fighters going up to 125 pounds from 115 pounds. There isn't going to be that much of a size difference here, but Barber seems to be the bigger fighter. She looks a little bit more physically imposing, a little bit bigger overall. Now, Macy Barber, the things that stand out are her ground and pound ferocity is absolutely insane. Her shot selection on the ground is pretty frightening when she's able to land on her opponent. She has 3 straight ground and pound finishes. She also has very flashy footwork, very constant, always moving around. There isn't necessarily so much of a pattern, other than she always tries to move into her power kick. Her being a southpaw fighter, she's always trying to move to her right when she attacks. It could be a bit obvious sometimes, and her hands aren't the best, and she keeps her chin very high up. And JJ Aldrich fought someone with a very similar striking style, and that would be Polyana Viana, who also kept her chin very high up, kept her hands low, and attacked from her hips. Very similar to what Macy Barber does. And she would throw a lot of body kicks, which is also something Barber does. So Aldrich fighting Viana is a very good asset coming into this fight. And JJ Aldrich doesn't do anything particularly amazing. She's not exceptional anywhere besides her Taekwondo seems to be pretty good, but she hasn't used too much of it in the UFC. But she is very well rounded. She has good fundamental boxing, great kicks, pretty good in the clinch, good fundamental Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, good wrestling. She has it all. And that is automatically going to favor her for me in this fight against Barber because Barber doesn't really stick to fundamentals at all. Even in her fight against Hannah Cifers, she was like stumbling and getting off balance and getting in very bad positions. And Cifers doesn't have the ground game like JJ Aldrich to make her pay for it, right? And Aldrich training with Rose Namajunas, having trained, I think, with Valentina Shevchenko before, combined with her experience and composure in the fight, I think she's going to have an advantage in this fight. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with JJ Aldrich. I think she's going to catch Macy Barber making many mistakes. I think her boxing is going to be a big difference on the feet. The kicks she's seen before, the footwork she's kind of seen before. Barber risks position too much, which she never really establishes in the first place. She tries to just muscle the opponent over a lot of times. I don't think she's going to be able to do that too much against Aldrich. So I'm going to go with JJ Aldrich. I'm going to go by a second round submission. It could be a decision though. But I see a mistake getting made and Aldrich capitalizing. She has a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. And then we go to Jussier Formiga versus Deiveson Figueiredo, and one of the fights I'm most looking forward to in this entire card. This is a very compelling fight, very good stylistic matchup. Both of these fighters are pretty well-rounded, but you would have to say that if it goes to the ground, Jussier Formiga is going to have a major advantage, and if it stays on the feet, Deiveson Figueiredo is going to have a major advantage. Formiga loves to look for takedowns. He keeps his striking very basic, always moving around, always getting the right positions to shoot in for the takedown, and he never steps. He's always hopping in different angles, which keeps him ready to shoot at all times. And the only strike he really likes to go for are those overhands, sometimes with the left, but usually with the right. But in this fight, you probably won't think he wants to strike with Deiveson Figueiredo too much. Figueiredo loves to keep a lot of distance, and he keeps a very long stance, right? And he's always looking for that right hand, either the straight, the uppercut, or a hook over the top. His punches come out very long, and he has some of the most power in the entire division. But the thing about Figueiredo is, he doesn't have the best takedown defense, right? When you look at his fight with Jared Brooks, who is the only fighter he really faced that has decent takedowns, he got taken down pretty much at will, but he always gave a sense of danger to Brooks. He always went for the guillotines, and he didn't really gas out in the fight, so his cardio going at that kind of pace, always getting taken down, and burning himself out with guillotines, he's still able to go 3 rounds pretty well. But that's the thing, can he get those guillotines, can he get those Kimuras he went for on a guy like Jussier Formiga, who's a way higher level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist than Jared Brooks is? It's going to be hard to say so. When you look at that fight with Jared Brooks, it goes to my prediction. My prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Jussier Formiga. I'm going to go by a decision. I think it's going to be a very close fight, but I think the takedowns of Juicy Formiga are going to be present there if he's going to be able to bait out those long punches of Figueiredo and shoot under them for the double legs, which he's able to do to fighters like Sergio Pettis of all people, who doesn't really extend on his punches like Figueiredo does. And Figueiredo getting taken down and controlled on the ground by a guy like Jared Brooks, Juicy Formiga is a higher level than that. So it seems a little bit logical that Juicy Formiga, with the experience, the composure, the wrestling, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu being a bit above Figueiredo's capabilities, I think should win him that decision. And then we go to the co-main event, Curtis Blaydes versus Justin Willis. Off the bat, I think this fight should be favored for Curtis Blaydes to win. I know Justin Willis is going to have some danger on the feet, right? He's never really extending too much. He's never really committing too much. He lets to be a bit patient, but he will let his hands go when he sees the opening. He is a better striker than Curtis Blaydes is. But I would have to think Blaydes is a much better wrestler than Willis is. Justin Willis, being a southpaw fighter, could throw off some of the takedowns of Curtis Blaydes because Curtis Blaydes loves to go for double legs and stuff. And he's really going to have to find his way past the hands of Willis, especially the counter left hand Willis likes to throw sometimes. But the single leg will be there more so for the taking, and against a heavier heavyweight, it could do him some good to go that route instead of his traditional double legs. And Curtis Blaydes does have a very, very good chin. Now, with Francis Ngannou and Mark Hunt cracking it over and over again, maybe it's done some damage to its durability. But from what we know, Curtis Blaydes has an insane chin, is taking shots from the biggest punchers in UFC history. And due to that goes straight to my prediction. I think Curtis Blaydes' wrestling is just going to be too much. He has fought at a higher level. He's fought stronger, bigger fighters and fighters with better wrestling than Willis has. And I think Curtis Blaydes is going to take this fight by a decision. I think he's just going to find takedowns over and over again. He might get caught a couple times in the early rounds, but I see him riding the fight to a decision, winning all 3 rounds. And then we go to the main event, Stephen Thompson versus Anthony Pettis. 2 traditional martial artists. Stephen Thompson coming from Kyokushin Karate and Anthony Pettis coming from Taekwondo. There's probably going to be a lot of kicks coming out in this fight, but here's the thing. Anthony Pettis is coming up from 155 pounds. He's going to be a bit smaller. He's going to be shorter reach. He may be a little bit faster than Thompson, but Thompson has much better footwork than Pettis does. So that might negate the speed advantage of Pettis. The only place I see Pettis having an advantage is in the inside boxing. I think his hands are a lot faster if he's able to stay in the inside and find that right hand. But Stephen Thompson has amazing defensive boxing, amazing counter shots. Anything Pettis throws, he's in danger to be caught by a counter from those long strikes of Thompson. Another weapon that Pettis might have are the leg kicks. If he's able to slow down Thompson in the early rounds and potentially catch him with his hands later, that could be an option. But all in all, I'm going to have to go straight to my prediction in this fight. I'm going to have to go with Stephen Thompson, and I'm going to go by a 3rd round TKO. I don't think he's going to knock Pettis out cold, but I think Thompson is eventually going to find the head kick that's going to land on Pettis. I know it's going to be pretty hard against such a high-level Taekwondo artist, but Thompson, with the better footwork, with the better cardio, Pettis is going to go up to 170, and he's not a big 155er either, so I don't think his cardio is going to get better at 170, and Thompson has shown he can go 5 rounds pretty easily. All the attributes with the style, I think, is going to give Thompson an advantage. Pettis is a bit of a plotter, and that's what's going to do him in. I don't think he's ever going to get in that distance to catch a guy like Thompson. And he doesn't have the wrestling threat like guys like Tyron Woodley does. So if Thompson's able to push back Pettis to the cage, Thompson can really throw things out there, right? He can really let loose, and that is a very, very dangerous place to be. He did the same thing to Johnny Hendricks, and Hendricks had a wrestling pedigree. And look what happened to him. Against a guy like Pettis, who I don't think could take down Thompson at all, it's going to be pretty dicey. Pettis is going to have to push the pace, but even then, he's going to be in risk from counter shots. And even the counter boxing of Thompson. His pullback counters are amazing. He's able to land some on even Tyron Woodley of all people. His side kicks are better than Pettis's. His round kicks are not winded up at all. He kind of throws them from his stance, which is something Pettis is used to. But Pettis doesn't normally throw lead high kicks or stuff like that. So it might be a little bit different of a look for Pettis. So all in all, I think Thompson has almost every advantage coming into this fight. And then let's look at the betting odds to see if there's anything interesting. Frankie Saenz and Marlon Vera should be an interesting fight. It's close in the betting odds, but that one's really interesting to look at. Macy Barber is a minus 250 favorite. Again, she's very green in the sport. She has a lot of hype behind her, and I think JJ Aldrich has the fundamentals to really give someone like Barber fits. And she comes from a better camp as well. Deiveson Figueiredo is also the favorite. Again, Figueiredo, I know I hyped him up a lot too, but he does have a lot of hype behind him, and he does make some takedown defensive mistakes. So it's a bit hard for him. It is a close fight. That is a very close fight to call. But I do favor Formiga. And the rest I agree with. So I hope you guys enjoyed the predictions, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. I got pretty bummed out that Nasrat Hakparas pulled out of the card due to an injury. That guy is a legit prospect in the lightweight division, and that would have been such an interesting fight, but all in all, the card doesn't seem too bad. Some good matchups. My next video is going to be the podcast. I'm going to try to get it out by tomorrow, but I would say probably expect it Friday. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.